It's that time of year again. The leaves are turning colors, the pumpkin-spiced everything is back on the market. It's also time for the historical haunts of downtown Bend walking tour that the Deschutes Historical Museum has put on every year since 2010.
We started with 5 volunteers, and 3 of us were tour guides and 2 hung out at the museum meeting and greeting and signing everybody up. We thought, we'll have 12, 15 people in a tour, and by the end of the first night, we had 25 to 30 people, and the next night we were doing 30, 35 people per tour.
All right, I'm kind of feeling like a ghost hunter. Let's rock.
You have a tour guide that starts at the museum, weaves through alleyways and side streets, and stops and talks and shares the stories, and you end up downtown.
While the haunted locations for this year are under strict lock and key,
one of last year's locations will give you an idea of what you can expect to materialize this year.
it all starts with the arrival of William P. Downing in the early 1900s.
Downing believed that he wanted to build a hotel and restaurant that it was family friendly in a part of town that wasn't family friendly. And so in 1920, he constructs the Downing building. And the hotel and lodging was on the top floor, and he had the restaurant on the bottom floor.
And it was smooth sailing for old William, for a handful of years.
In 1925, he heard his wife had been disloyal to him, and he was quite distraught. And there were reports that he was seen buying a pistol.
So now we have a distraught man, seething with the bitterness of betrayal. He's armed and dangerous, and he walks from the Downing building on Bond Street to the Minor building, which is where the Wells Fargo parking lot is today.
In the Minor building, they had lodging up above, and he went to one of his ex-employees where she was staying, and basically said, "Look, I really want you to come back to work. I need you to manage the hotel." And she said, "Well, I'll think about it." And he walked out the door, and he had told her what had happened and why he wanted her to come back. And he walked out the door, and she heard a bang, and she runs to the door and hears another bang.
And there lay not William's unfaithful partner, but William himself, gone forever by his own hand. Or was he?
Reports say that in the early 2000s, a group of men came into the building to have dinner.
And their rude behavior may have resurrected the dead.
They sat down, they were extremely rude and loud and obnoxious and demanding drinks and demanding food and being disrespectful to the gals who were serving them.
They all sat around a large, heavy wooden table, a manly table placed firmly into the earth. Or so they thought.
The table, the pine table, literally was reported to have risen off the floor, flipped upside down, slamming back down on the floor with food and plates and everything going all over the place. The guys that were around the table were super freaked out and left and said they were never coming back here. And it took like 5 guys to literally lift the table and reset it up.
But what on God's green earth could do such a thing? Perhaps something not of God's green earth.
That was Downing. He didn't like that kind of behavior in his restaurant, and so it was Downing showing his disapproval.
So mark your calendars for October 11th and 12th. Tickets are only available online, so head to DeschutesHistory.org.
We're 90% history, 10% paranormal, and 100% fun.
For Central Oregon Daily News, I may be or may not be Scott Elnes.